the terminologies we use. Derivable from the ultimate source. What is derivability? If we talk about from ultimate source, something has to be derived. It has a predictability, it has deducibility also, and there are certain elements of chance positions. So what could be the mechanistic position to understand such, dynamically rich, complex entity, which is changing, and this change is to be properly understood from a mechanistic perspective also, if we want to really objectivize from materialistic sense. Not mere summation of earlier evolutes. It is definitely not a mere summation of earlier evolutes. Is such a theory of emergence under a perennial trial? Like if we say, or if I put it like Morgan's position, that there is a difference between emergent and a resultant. So a need for an absolute distinction between emergent and resultant, is it applicable here in Sāṅkhya perspective from Tanmatra's position? Because we know that there are Tattvantar Parinama and Dharmantar Parinama from Lakshana and Avasthava. But the point is, emergent must give way to resultant. Is it a principal kind of situation? But can a resultant not have a kind of emergent property in it all the time? In a way, it is a Satkaryavad and Asatkaryavad in a modified form.
So,
yes.
Dr. Lalit, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You have already taken your time. So
perfect. So I'm just winding up now. So now we know that this is Akasha, Shabda, and this. My point is, can I smell sky? And if this smelling sky is a cross-model perception or cognition from Sāṅkhya, this leads to interconnected and Tanmatras. And here, Avishesha, like Tanmatras, are connecting and interacting with Vishesha. And this is where I want to bring up the cognitive epistemological perspective of Sāṅkhya. I'm sorry for extending this. I didn't realize that, somehow. But thanks to the team, the entire team, and the Department of Philosophy and Religion, B.H.U. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lalit, for your excellent presentation. Now we have our next speaker, Dr. D. Pramod, who is Dean Research and Development, Malareddy University, Hyderabad, Telangana. He will be making his presentation on thought processing unit mind. So if Dr. D. Pramod is there, I think we can. Dr. D. Pramod, are you there? I think we can invite some other speaker. So next we have Dr. Rajiv Lochan Behera. He is Assistant Professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Varanasi Hindu University. His areas of specialization are analytic philosophy, philosophy of language, philosophy of mind, and critical discourse analysis, especially Barthelye's philosophy of semantics. He has also published one book and number of research papers in reputed journals. So I would welcome you, sir. Please come.
Thank you, sir. At first, my pranam to the chair of the session, Professor D.N. Tiwari, sir, and my love to all the research scholars. I would like to present the paper on mechanism of yoga and its relation to microcosm-macrocosm harmony in philosophical discourse. In the present paper, I propose to address some imperative issues in the Plato's philosophy of yoga and to show how these issues are dealt with the Kapil's philosophy of yoga as well as Patanjali's philosophy of yoga. I also hope to show the implication that this discussion might have for philosophical discourse Specifically, I shall be discussing the microcosm-macrocosm relation. The philosophy of yoga demonstrates a common understanding and development in their views, and these concepts refer to the divine and human in order to arrive at the interrelation between the microcosm and macrocosm. The further query raised is whether these views of philosophy of ego are attempting to comprehend the nature of the divine or the nature of human, or whether these apparent ends are in fact part of their quest for absolute reality. My conclusion would be closest to the sympathetic towards microcosm-macrocosm harmony, intoxicated by the macrocosm. Basically, as you know that yoga means union. It's a method of spiritual union, and to achieve such union is to reach the state of perfect yoga. Yoga is also considered as meditational technique through which we can maintain microcosm-macrocosm harmony to avoid spiritual ignorance. According to the philosophy of yoga, to maintain the unitive state of triple elements, mind, body, and spirit, yoga is needed. For this philosophy, all these elements are one and cannot be separated from each other. We, the human, suffers from problems of mind-body dualism, which binds us to the cycle of rebirth due to spiritual ignorance. The removal of the ignorance, we should follow meditational technique of yoga. Therefore, the philosophy of yoga of Kapil, Patanjali, and Plato has emphasized in this paper. First, philosophy of Kapil's yoga. As you know, Kapil's philosophy is called Sāṅkhya philosophy. Sāṅkhya is the language of yoga, which is primarily built upon foundations of deep reflection and dependent experience. It describes the full spectrum of human existence by revealing the basic elements that make up the macrocosm and microcosm. It teaches us about the component of body, spirit, and mind, from the gross element that make up the physical body to the more subtle elements of the mind and consciousness. It states that the individual human being has 25 elements. Out of the 25 elements, two are the sources from which the whole universe evolves. That is Purusha and Prakriti. Within Purusha, there are three fundamental forces called Mahaguna, Tattva, Rasa, Rajas, and Sattva. From Prakriti rise also the three elements of the mind: higher, intuitive, self-knowing mind, which connects with consciousness. The lower mind thinks, rational mind, which connects consciousness to the outer world via the senses, and the ego, that is called Ahankara, which consists in a space between the higher and the lower mind. These 25 elements were further simplified into two more maps of the mind, body, spirit, the three sariras and the 5 kosos. And these both identify layers within our experience which correlate with each other in the tattvas. The sarira and kosos are both used to draw one's awareness inside, traveling from the physical to the energetic and causal bodies towards the variations of our being, which Sāṅkhya tells us is, that is called Brahman, undivided oneness. This moving from the physical to the subtle diverse experience of the bodies to impart tools into practice of meditation and inner contemplation. Sāṅkhya discriminates between Purusha and Prakriti so as to show the liberation of Purusha. The focus is to discriminate between Purusha and the higher mental states, Manas and Buddhi, which are part of Prakriti. Prakriti is a fully real material substance and not the creation of Brahman's mysterious power. Here, Sāṅkhya holds two important physical positions such as metaphysical realm and realism and metaphysical pluralism. For Sāṅkhya's metaphysical realism, the external world is real, while in metaphysical pluralism, there are many individual souls that will remain individuals and isolated even after their liberation from Prakriti. With regard to microcosm and macrocosm relation, Sāṅkhya Darshan describes the human body as a mini universe, and whatever elements exist in the universe, they exist in the human body also. Every entity is constituted and coexistent in harmonious relation of all the fundamental elements, which creates the bodies with eternal order. Even in natural process, these bodies and its components exist in harmonious relation with each other, though the macrocosm is important, but microcosm is not isolated from macrocosm. Now, come to the next philosophy of Patanjali's yoga. Yoga is a method for making a bridge among body, mind, and spirit. It's a holistic science which may signify the actual sense of the holistic life of a human. Human needs physical fitness with beautifulness, which is considered as physical power, sagacious mind with creative power, and to be a part and to contact with the one who have met us and made all things. The sage Patanjali is the founder of the yoga system. Yoga is the control of thought waves in the mind. The mind is made up of three components: monos, buddhi, and ahankara. Mono is the record faculty which receives impressions gathered by the senses from the outside world. Buddhi is the discriminative faculty which classified these impressions and reacts to them. Ahankara is the ego sense which claims these impressions for its own and stores them up to individual knowledge. Yoga provides a step-by-step path towards enlightenment for the spiritually unevolved. The 8 steps of yoga are yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyaham, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. The first 2 are ethical in nature, and the next 3 steps means for physical fitness, while the last 3 steps are connected with meditation. With regard to microcosm and macrocosm relation, Patanjali argues that Chitta is constituted for monos, that is, and monos plus ahankara plus buddhi. And the Chitta is the substratum of the entire matrix of experience of the soul, which takes from the human body. In fact, Purusha takes from Prakriti as Jivatma. To have the experience of liberated its karmic cycle, ego eventually gets an aspirant of the experiential dimension of the body and mind and spirit. The final end in which the yoga finds self is the whole universe. We must bear in mind that is yoga, there is to divergence between the cosmological and the psychological, the macrocosm's universe and the microcosmic human being. Now, philosopher Plato, in his 3 dialects, he is discussing his 3 dialects, Phaedo, Meno, and Republic. Plato's are interpreted through the lens of yoga. For Plato, the soul and the body are 2 separate entities. The body is the temporary physical material aspect of the persons, and the soul is the essential being, the essence of the person, that is immaterial aspect. In Plato's understanding, the soul is temporarily united with the physical body, but can leave the body and move on. In his work, Plato believes that the soul is immortal. The soul animates the person by giving its life. So if a soul is a life-giving essence, then it is obvious that it must always have life. Now, come to his second dialect, that is Meno. In his Meno, Plato argues that our intuitions were evidence of knowledge attained before birth. This too, Plato shows that our soul had once lived in the world of perfect forms. Next, come to the next dialogue, that is Republic. Plato introduced a story known as the myth of Hades, in which he raised some ideas about the immortality of the soul. In the story, all through the mouth of secretaries of courses of the soldiers and cowards dies on the battlefield. At least appeared to die, but 10 days later, when the fighting was over and it was safe for the bodies to the recover for funerals, there was no sign that his body had decomposed at all. On the 12th day, when his body had been placed on the funeral pyres, he suddenly woke up. She suddenly came back to life. This was able to tell everyone all that he had experienced of the afterlife. Now, come to the last point is something about the philosophy of yoga and the microcosm and microcosm. I drew the points from 2 texts. So this is called Yoga, Mastering the Basics, written by Sundra Anderson, and the next one is by yes, Pandit Rajmani Tangunait says his book is The Practice of the Yoga Sutra. There he said the human body, more precisely the chakras, the vertices of consciousness in the body are the gateway to discovering the mystery of the universe and our life in it. Sundara Anderson has said that it is, yoga is a link between two worlds, such as macrocosm and macrocosm. So it's a very powerful link, And in his thought, he said, according to tantric maxim, tatha brahmande yatha pindande. Now, that the argument point is that in defense of macrocosm through philosophy of yoga, according to Sāṅkhya, man is the macrocosm, but the universe is the man is the microcosm, and the universe is the macrocosm, or man in the microcosm of the universe. But the universe is referred to an brahmando, and man is referred to the brahmando. Plato also believed that the divine, who is the immanent in the world, also situated a part of himself within every individual. Now, concluding, the concluding point is that this is to hold the ideas by submitting the views that macrocosm is more prior to microcosm, and the one idea is that macrocosm are already in macrocosm, but there is need of right knowledge to identify their existence and reality. So there is need of yoga, because the mechanism of yoga can help them to be alive within the living world. The second idea is that after getting their identification, existence, and understanding the reality, they have to maintain the harmony between macrocosm and microcosm. So there is also need of yoga, because only through yoga they can evade their spiritual ignorance. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv, for your interesting presentation. Next, let me invite Dr. D. Pramod. Sir, are you there? Can you hear me? Dr. D. Pramod, I think he is there, connected online, but not responding. Okay, so we can move to the next. Next, we have Dr. Rajan. Dr. Rajan, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible. So Dr. Rajan is Assistant Professor, Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, Bhubaneswar, and he will be making his presentation on Yoga, Sanskriti, or hermeneutics.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm really delighted that I am being a part of this family festival being organized and celebrated at my department of Philosophy and Religion, Varanasi in the university. First of all, I would like to thank to my chairperson, Professor D.N. Tiwari, sir, that he would be guiding me if I make any sort of mistake. Furthermore, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to my teachers, all my teachers. D. Gangadhar sir is in front of me. Furthermore, I would like to express my gratitude to Kripasankar Roja sir, who taught me Sāṅkhya and yoga during the classes. Now, let me express some thoughts, or rather to say some questions regarding to the philosophy of yoga. So when I am going to say something about the philosophy of yoga, I have certain presumption which I have taken from Hegelian dialectic. So there is a very romantic, presupposition have been accepted by lots of thinkers and also have been, embraced in the contemporary scenario. And that presumption is that कि बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी होती हैं जिनको हम ट्रांसेंड नहीं कर सकते. Like we are limited or bounded by those things. So these things follows like the history, culture, tradition, time, space, genetics. So if we accept this assumption कि हम history को, culture को, tradition को transcend नहीं कर सकते, then what would be the philosophy of yoga at that point of time? Furthermore, if I try to associate the philosophy of yoga with this presumption कि जो योग सूत्र है पतंजलि जी का वो किसी historical circumstances में या historical point of time में लिखा गया है, तो उस वक्त हम philosophy of योग की interpretation क्या करेंगे? Furthermore, when we try to understand the idea of history according to Hegel, Hegel says that history is a dynamic process which does not stand at one place. So I have assumed this thing that our ideas, our notion, our conception of something is historically conditioned, or to say like we cannot transcend the history. Hegel was very much, uh, what to say, Hegel was very much impressed with this thesis. And furthermore, even if someone says that philosophy aims to overcome the conditioning, philosophy helps us to transcend the conditioning, still Hegel would say that this very idea is also have been caused by the history. So when I accepted this presumption, now I come to the very first question, like what would be the modern interpretation of yoga if we accept that we are historically conditioned? Like, will it remain the same as it was in the time period of Patanjali, like Yoga Chit Vritti Nirodha or the Vyas Bhashya Yoga Samadhi? Or will we have something modern? Like nowadays we proclaim that yoga is a way of life, or it is a holistic way of life, it promotes human well-being and so on. So I just want to put this question, like, will the interpretation of yoga be differed from the ancient time in the modern time, or will it remain the same? Now coming to the second question, what would be the modern interpretation of Ashtanga yoga, which is a very important and integral part of Patanjali Yoga Darshan? Like, when we try to understand the yam and niyam, in the ancient time, it is accepted that the yam and niyam was used for the purification of self. आत्म शुद्धि के लिए हमने यम और नियम का यूज किया. Furthermore, in the recent time, there is a very much broad consciousness emerging that the other part of yoga have been, researched a lot. हमने आसन प्राणायाम को research किया, हमने spiritual aspect को research किया. But the most neglected part of Yoga Darshan or Patanjali Yoga Darshan or Ashtanga Yoga Patanjali Yoga Darshan is the moral aspect. So I just want to put this question, whether the yam and niyam, the interpretation of yam and niyam would remain the same as it was in the earlier time, or would we have something modern in the contemporary time? Can we build up a new theory by following the yam and niyam, or will we remain in the same context? Now coming to the asana and pranayam. Nowadays, we all try to focus on the psychological, or we do a sort of medicalization of asana and pranayam. Lots of research have been going on, lots of presentation would be going on after me, lots of AIMS doctor, and am I audible to everyone?
Now we are audible. Now we are audible.
Yes,
Oh, thank you so much. So where I was saying that lots of medical interpretation or medicalization have been done on the asanas and pranayama. So like personally, I also oppose this thing, like we should not do the medicalization, we should not put the medical gaze on the asana pranayama. But it is a modern interpretation. That's why that's what we all are doing. We all are practicing. So we cannot oppose this thing. So Hegel would say, whether you follow the ancient notion or in the modern notion, you are historically, following the things. And this thing is very much essential to know. Hegel also accepted this thing, like whatever you are going to follow, ultimately you will reach the absolute. So whether we are, doing asana and pranayama in the modern sense or in the ancient, we all will lead to the ultimate goal that may be considered as absolute or moksha or apvarga and so on. So this thing is very much essential to contemplate. And now I may conclude my thesis with that. Similarly, Aurobindo ji also proclaimed the thesis that whether follow any sort of path, or whether you follow the yoga or not, everyone will reach the Satchid and Anand. Like you will reach the Satchid and Anand sooner or later. However, the process of yoga may help you to reach that goal faster. So this is also the framework under which I try to put the philosophy of yoga. Like when we are historically conditioned, when culture basically influence the whole process, will the interpretation of yoga be remain the same, or can we have a refresh and modern interpretation? Can we progress, or can we address new problems or new researches in the Patanjali Yoga Darshan, or will we do the same literal interpretation of the Patanjali Yoga Darshan? When I try to put the hermeneutical method in it, there are four things. One is literal, second is analogical, moral, and allegorical. So most of the time when we try to interpret the Patanjali Yoga Darshan, we follow the literal method. We try to interpret the Patanjali Yoga Darshan literally. Like, we do not try to take any sort of risk. However, we may transcend this methodology, and we may move forward and may interpret Patanjali Yoga Darshan with another point of view, from moral perspective, from analogical point of view, as well as from allegorical point of view. So this thing may help us to interpret the fresh interpretation of Patanjali Yoga Darshan, and this is the thing. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I have concluded my thesis, sir. Thank you so much.
You done?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, then thank you for your nice presentation. Next we have Dr. D. Pramod. So are you there? Can you hear me? You're not audible, so Dr.
Yeah,
Pramod.
it's okay, Sonu?
Now you're audible. So go ahead, make your presentation. Yeah. Okay, so you will be making your presentation on thought processing unit,
Yes.
mind,
Yes.
and you have total 10 minutes.
Yeah, just wait. I'm just upload.
Yeah.
Upload.
Okay.
Right, sir. Can you just wait 2 minutes, sir? I'm just unable to upload it actually. Sir,
Sir, I think you can make your presentation without using
sorry, am I not?
the screen.
Can you upload this one? Which shows upload చేస్తా screen open చేశారు upload కావడం PPT upload చేయాలబ్బా.
He is audible.
Access ఇచ్చారు.
He is trying to share the screen, I think.
Sir, you're not
Why don't you move to the next session? In the meantime, he will fix it up.
I think you're not even updated, sir. You're not even access to me, sir. It's not sharing. I think phone check. చెప్పాను కదా అప్పటి
Rahul sir, why don't you move to the next session? In the meantime, he will fix this problem.
So, Dr. Pramod, we are moving to next speaker. Meanwhile, you can make your screen working, right? So, next we have Dr. Mahesh Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, Jagadguru Ramanandachar, Rajasthan Sanskrit University, Jaipur, and he will be speaking on Sāṅkhya और योग का समान संबंध.
नमस्कार, मम ध्वनिः श्रूयते न वा तत्र? मौर्य जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
आम् सम्यक् रूपेण श्रूयते.
सर्वेभ्यो नमस्कारः. सीतानाथ समारंभां रामानन्दार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरु परम्पराम्. अधिमञ्चं विराजमानाः मान्याः डीएन श्रद्धेयाः पूज्याः डीएन तिवारी वर्याः, महतः प्रमोदस्य स्थानमिदं यदद्य सांख्य योगयोः सम्बन्धं विषयीकृत्य इयं संगोष्ठी अत्र वाराणस्यां समायोज्यते. जयपुरतः अहं सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारान् वितीर्य किंचित वच्मि. सब लोग अंग्रेजी में बोल रहे हैं. ये शायद प्रमोद जी का मैं बोल सकता हूँ ना? प्रमोद जी का कुछ शेयरिंग वाला आ रहा है बीच में. मौर्य जी एक बार थोड़ा देखिएगा प्लीज. हाँ, थैंक यू. मैं बिल्कुल योगानुशासन से चलूंगा, और योगानुशासन में समय बहुत बड़ी चीज है. मैं समझता हूँ बहुत लोगों को बोलना है, मुझे कुछ अधिक नहीं कहना है. सारी बात बड़े बड़े विद्वान कह चुके हैं. मैं 2-3 बातें अपनी कह के, जो अब तक नहीं कही गई है, उन बातों को कह करके बिल्कुल मौन हो जाऊंगा. वैदिक सनातन धर्म में सांख्य और योग दर्शन एक जोड़े के रूप में प्रचलित है, और शास्त्रों में इन दोनों दर्शनों के उपलब्ध आरंभिक सूत्र वास्तव में इन दोनों के समान संबंध को प्रकट करते हैं. उपनिषदों में, महाभारत में, और मुख्यतः गीता में, और गीता के बाद पौराणिक साहित्य में सांख्य और योग, इन दोनों शब्दों का प्रायः उल्लेख एक साथ हुआ है. और महाभारत का एक प्रसिद्ध कथन है कि सांख्य योग का जो फल है वह अत्यंत कल्याणकारी है. और इसलिए निर्विवाद रूप से यह बात है कि सभी ग्रंथों में उनका पारस्परिक संबंध समान ही रहा है. और इस संबंध को अलग अलग बताने का काम उद्घाटन सत्र में प्रोफेसर दीनानाथ जी ने किया था. वो बहुत चिंतनीय विषय है, बहुत जबरदस्त उनका व्याख्यान था. यद्यपि सांख्य ने विश्व विकास के विभिन्न रूपों के संबंध में विवेचन करने वाले सभी ग्रंथों को प्रभावित किया है, किंतु मैं कहना चाहता हूं यह भी बहुत बड़ा दुखद आश्चर्य है कि सांख्य को भारत में उतना सम्मान एवं आदर प्राप्त नहीं हो सका था, और कदाचित अभी नहीं है जितना योग को मिला अथवा अब भी मिल रहा है. हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि सांख्य के उद्गम की समस्या, सांख्य का उद्गम कब हुआ, कहाँ हुआ, किस ग्रंथ में सर्वप्रथम हुआ, इस समस्या पर विचार करना भारतीय दर्शन की कठिनतम समस्याओं में एक है. और इसका उल्लेख पुरातन ग्रंथों में पंच शिखाचार्य के नाम से प्रसिद्ध वह वाक्य है, एकमेव दर्शनम सांख्यमेव दर्शनम. हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि महर्षि कपिल के द्वारा विरचित सांख्य सूत्र इस दर्शन के आधार हैं, और सांख्य सिद्धांत पर बहुत से ग्रंथ और निबंध लिखे गए हैं. पर हम लोगों को यह जानना चाहिए कि वह आरंभिक सांख्य शिक्षा क्या थी जिसे ईश्वर कृष्णाचार्य ने सांख्य कारिका में सुधारा. इस विषय में सामान्य रूप से स्वीकृत कोई सम्मति आज तक नहीं बन पाई है, और ईश्वर कृष्ण के द्वारा की हुई सांख्य कारिकाओं पर भी अपने आप में बहुत सारी टीकाएं हैं. उन टीकाओं में अत्यंत आरंभिक टीका संभवतः परमार्थ द्वारा किए अनुवाद के रूप में है, जो 1546 ईस्वी में चीनी भाषा में सबसे पहले प्रकाशित हुई थी, और इसका संस्कृत रूपांतरण पंडित अय्या स्वामी शास्त्री द्वारा किया गया था. सांख्य कारिका की माठराचार्य टीका माठर वृत्ति को 450 ईस्वी के उपरांत नहीं रखा जा सकता, और ईश्वर कृष्ण को 250 ईस्वी के पश्चात का नहीं मान सकते. दर्शन, भारतीय दर्शन के बड़े अध्येता प्रोफेसर A.B. कीथ ने अपनी प्रसिद्ध पुस्तक सांख्य सिस्टम्स में कहा है कि ईश्वर कृष्ण 325 ईस्वी के पश्चात नहीं रखे जा सकते। मैं बहुत संकोच के साथ इस बात को कहना चाहता हूं कि यह बात मानी जा सकती है कि बुद्धिज्म और जैनिज्म के बाद सांख्य के ग्रंथों का प्रणयन हुआ, जिनको आज की तारीख में सांख्य दर्शन के तहत पढ़ाया जा रहा है। और बुद्धिज्म और जैनिज्म के पुराना जो सांख्य है, जो गीता में, महाभारत में वर्णित है, इस सांख्य को निरीश्वर और शेश्वर, इन दो द्वंद्व के बीच में जिस तरह से एक नई तरीके की बात, शेश्वर सांख्य, निरीश्वर सांख्य के हम सभी लोग चर्चा करते हैं, गुरुजन चर्चा करते हैं। लेकिन गीता का जो सांख्य है, देखिए एस.एन. दास गुप्त की हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडियन फिलोसफी जो 1922 में, आज से 100 साल पहले छपी, उसके प्रथम भाग के अंदर प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर एस.एन. दास गुप्त ने सांख्य योग को बिल्कुल अलग अलग नहीं लिखा, एक साथ लिखा। 100 वर्ष पहले तक एस.एन. दास गुप्त ने, कैम्ब्रिज से वो बुक छपी, सांख्य योग को साथ साथ लिख रहे हैं। इधर गीता के कथन की सुबह से इस वाक्य को सैकड़ों बार दोहराया जा चुका है, सांख्य योगो पृथक बालाः प्रवदन्ति न पंडिताः यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते योगम तद योगैरपि गम्यते। गीता का कथन है, हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि अज्ञानी लोग ही सांख्य एवं योग को भिन्न मानते हैं, किंतु जो इनमें से किसी एक का आश्रय ले लेता है वह दोनों द्वारा उद्घाटित फल की प्राप्ति करता है, और जो दोनों को समझता है वह सत्यावलोकन करता है। महर्षि पतंजलि के लिखे योग सूत्रों ने कहीं भी विश्व के विकास की योजना पर स्पष्ट रूप से कोई प्रकाश नहीं डाला है। हम चाहे पूरे उनके जो 200 के करीब सूत्र उनको देख लें, किंतु इसमें इतनी पर्याप्त सामग्री जरूर है योग दर्शन में, जिसके आधार पर यह कहा जा सकता है कि यह सांख्य पद्धति के कुछ सिद्धांतों को स्वीकार करता है, भले वो प्रकृति का सिद्धांत हो, तत्व, सत्व, रज, तम नामक 3 गुण हो, उनकी विशेषताएं हो, आत्मा का स्वरूप हो, कैवल्य हो, मुक्ति में आत्मा की स्थिति कैसी है, वैसी बातें, सांख्य की बातें योग सूत्र में के कुछ निर्देशों से भी स्थापित की जा सकती है। योग सूत्र ने इंद्रियों के निरोध से उत्पन्न हुए फलों का उल्लेख किया है, जिनमें एक है प्रधान जय। मैं ध्यानाकर्षण चाहता हूं आप पर। योग सूत्र ने इंद्रियों के निरोध से उत्पन्न फलों का उल्लेख किया है, जिनमें एक है प्रधान जय, विश्व के प्रथम कारण, प्रधान को जीतना, जिसे सांख्य ने भी कहा है। योग सूत्र ने कहीं भी प्रकृति एवं इसके विकास या उद्भव की चर्चा नहीं की है, अतः माना जा सकता है कि सांख्य ने प्रकृति के विषय में जो कहा है, योग उसे जो का त्यों स्वीकार कर लेता है। अब थोड़ा सा यह इस तरह से है कि योग ने सांख्य के कुछ सिद्धांत, कुछ मौलिक सिद्धांतों को, यद्यपि ये मौलिक शब्द का प्रयोग में हम लोग करते नहीं है, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ मौलिक होते ही जैन और बौद्ध होने की संभावना है। हमारे यहाँ तो सब वैदिक सिद्धांत से ही अनुप्राणित है, इसलिए ये जो बार बार कहा जाता है और वक्ता लोग कहते हैं कि उनका मौलिक सिद्धांत है, मौलिक सिद्धांत है, मौलिक सिद्धांत तो होना ही अवैदिक होना है। तो योग ने सांख्य के जो सिद्धांतों को स्वीकार कर लिया, उन दोनों में कुछ अंतर भी है। सांख्य में ईश्वर को स्थान प्राप्त नहीं के बराबर है, किंतु योग के समाधि पाद में, हम सभी लोग इस सूत्र की सुबह से चर्चा कर रहे हैं, ईश्वर प्रणिधान अथवा ईश्वर के अस्तित्व की बात पाई जाती है। यद्यपि यह केवल गौण रूप में ही प्रतिष्ठापित है, जिसको बहुत कई बार अति श्रद्धा और अति उत्साह में बहुत अत्यधिक विवेचन कर दिया जाता है, और संभवतः यह केवल सर्वसाधारण के विश्वास पर ही आधारित है, क्योंकि योग सूत्र ने कहीं भी स्पष्ट रूप से यह नहीं कहा है कि ईश्वर विश्व का स्रष्टा है। वह जो कुछ कहता है वह यह है कि उसमें सर्वोच्च सर्वज्ञता पाई जाती है, वह आदि ऋषियों का आचार्य है, और ओमकार के जप, प्रणव के जप एवं उस पर ध्यान लगाने से योगी आत्मा के सत्य स्वरूप का ज्ञान प्राप्त कर सकता है। वास्तव में सांख्य एवं योग दोनों में परमार्थ है, कैवल्य है, किंतु सांख्य सम्यक ज्ञान के अतिरिक्त किसी अन्य अनुशासन की व्यवस्था कैवल्य के लिए नहीं करता। वास्तव में सांख्य एक आध्यात्मिक एवं बौद्धिक, किंतु योग ने आध्यात्मिक एवं बौद्धिक दर्शन है सांख्य, किंतु योग ने इस आध्यात्मिकता एवं बुद्धिमत्ता के साथ इस विषय में एक विशद मानस अनुशासन की व्यवस्था भी की है। केवल ज्ञान की अपेक्षा अभ्यास एवं प्रयास को अधिक महत्व एवं प्रधानता दी है, तथा प्राणायाम एवं ध्यान पर विशेष बल दिया है। हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि सांख्य ने आत्मा के उद्धार एवं जन्म से छुटकारा, मुक्ति पाने के लिए पुरुष एवं प्रकृति एवं दोनों के अंतर को भलीभांति समझ लेने को पर्याप्त माना है, किंतु योग केवल इस दार्शनिक सरल मानसिक स्थिति तक पहुंच जाने पर ही संतोष नहीं करता, वह इच्छा एवं संवेगों के क्रमबद्ध प्रशिक्षण एवं संयमन पर बल देता है। सांख्य एवं योग दोनों में प्रत्येक आत्मा नित्य है, व्यक्ति की नियति है प्रकृति एवं उसके विभिन्न स्वरूपों से मुक्ति पाना तथा सदैव वही स्वरूप में बने रहना, यही पर सांख्य और योग शंकराचार्य के अद्वैत और भगवान रामानुजाचार्य के विशिष्टाद्वैत से पृथक है, क्योंकि आचार्य शंकर के वेदांता अद्वैत मतानुसार आत्मा की अंतिम नियति है मतलब ब्रह्मात्मैक्य बोध, ब्रह्मात्मैक्य हो जाना, उसमें निमग्न हो जाना, ब्रह्म में समाहित तो मैं नहीं कहूंगा। और भगवान रामानुजाचार्य के यहाँ परम पुरुषोत्तम भगवान श्रीमन नारायण जो चित अचित विशिष्ट है, जो श्रीभू नीला नायक है, सत्य काम सत्य संकल्प है, उन ईश्वर की भक्ति को प्राप्त कर लेना, यह भगवान रामानुजाचार्य का।
Dr. Mahesh, you have already taken your time, so kindly conclude.
बस आई एम कंक्लूडिंग सर, और मैं बस लास्ट 2 बात कह रहा हूँ। विज्ञान भिक्षु ने लगभग 1550 ईस्वी में सांख्य प्रवचन सूत्र पर एक भाष्य लिखा। विज्ञान भिक्षु ने यह असंभव मान्यता स्थापित करने का प्रयास किया कि सांख्य सिद्धांत की बातें ईश्वरवादी सिद्धांत या अद्वैत सिद्धांत के विरोध में बिल्कुल नहीं जाती है। इसलिए यह माना जा सकता है कि सांख्य और योग इन दोनों के जिस संबंध की चर्चा हम सभी लोग कर रहे हैं, वास्तव में ये चर्चा बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। और इस आयोजन के लिए मैं दर्शन विभाग, बनारस हिंदू विश्वविद्यालय और विशेषकर श्रुति मिश्रा जी को धन्यवाद देता हूँ। नमस्कार।
Thank you, Dr. Mahesh, for your. Okay, so we would like to thank you from our convener of this program, Dr. Shruti Mishra ji. She is also extending her thankfulness to your presentation.
Sir, now I can speak, sir.
Yes, Dr. Pramod, now you can go ahead and make your presentation. You are audible.
Stop me. It's just uploading, sir. Are you able to see, sir?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you, sir, for the technical problems from here. And I'm Dr. Pramod from Maurya University. I did MSc and PhD. I'm basically a man of physics. I have joined in the metaphysics science. I'm writing on Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam activities and published a lot of papers. So I got an idea when you're talking about Sāṅkhya philosophy, and Dr. Anand Mishra has given a time, Pramod, you can speak at 10 minutes time. You can go on the thought processing unit. So basically, we are the most fortunate people in the world and among the living entities. There are 84 lakhs of living entities, and we're the most fortunate as well intelligent and most conscious. Intelligent can be used for the constructive purpose or destructive purpose. It depends upon intelligence where we can use it. Okay, whether they can go for a destructive or constructive purpose. The human body is trapped in the material world. We are in the material world actually. And so many problems we have, it has become very difficult to come out from the material world. It does not mean that we are intelligent, we can do anything. And it does not mean we can conquer and kill other living entities. The human form is the best platform in this materialistic world to go to higher planets. And there are so many janmas, the birth and death continues, and we reach it up to the human form. This human form should be utilized properly to go to higher levels. Otherwise, we are useless. The highest goal of human life is to reside in the vicinity of the Supreme Lord. That is the final goal of aim of all human beings. Now, thought processing unit. This can be achieved by proper dedication and devotional service to the proper yoga system. Otherwise, the birth and death cycle continues. We have got a form, we have to use it by yoga system and other devotional activities. We can do it, we can go to higher levels. To escape from the material world, one must control the attributes of the human body. Okay, a human body consists of senses, mind. That I'm going to discuss details. The human body is entangled with the 28 attributes. The mind controls and coordinates with all attributes called thought processing units. Okay, what are these? I'm going to discuss. It's a complex, but analysis systematically and take the decision depending on the external internal condition at the time of feeding the inputs. Okay, thought processing unit, the whole body consists of 28 parameters. Whatever the input goes, that analyzes and process it and go to the output form. That's what I'm going to display. Now, the thought processing unit is a subject, sorry, I'm talking metaphysics. Metaphysics is a subject which deals about the science, society, and interaction between the interrelation between the science and society. It deals about objects behind the physical objects. Some things we cannot see, but still we can imagine them. It talks about existence, non-existence. It talks about the topics where science ends. The main questions: who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Who had sent me here? Why did I come here? Where do we go from here? These are the complications of people did it in the past. We also do it, future also do it, but things are unanswerable. This can be achieved by analyzing the systematically of Vedic scriptures. And you may not find the Western literature, but we can find only Vedic scriptures, Hindu scriptures, we can identify these things. Now, what are the attributes? The attributes, you have the cosmic elements, Panchabhutas, we know there are 5. Working senses, Karmendriyas, we call them in Sanskrit, there are 5. Knowledgeable senses, you have the Gnanendriyas, 5. Objects, knowledgeable senses, Tattvas, that can touch, view, see, and all these things, 5. Mind, Manas. False ego, that's the Ankar. Intelligence, Buddhi, we call it in Sanskrit. Soul, Atma, another Paramatma. And modes of nature are 3. So these 28 parameters are called attributes. The human body is combination of all these things. This is called thought processing unit. Now, we have the modes of nature. There are 3 modes of nature we have it. Mode of goodness, that's Sattva Guna. Mode of passion, Rajoguna. Mode of ignorance, Guna. These are most complicated things, and wherever you go, we find these things. These are available in the human body also. Up to neck, Sattva Guna. Middle, abdominal is the passion. Then after that, Tamo Guna. Then you have a time also. Till morning up to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock is Sattva Guna. 9 to 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you go to passion, Rajoguna. Then after 6 o'clock, to Tamo Guna. Whole world is divided into the modes of nature. Then food also. It also depends upon whatever the food you are taking. You're taking vegetarian food, non-vegetarian food, sattvic food, non-sattvic food. All depends upon your ideas. Your process depends upon whatever the inputs you are giving to the body. And weather also important. Whether talking about which conditions we can. We are speaking India, speaking Himalayas, it's been hot conditions, weather also important. So sattvic food, sattvic nature, sattvic association will make you Suddha Sattvic. Suddha Sattvic is the gateway to spiritual planets, and it's very, very difficult to reach up to the place. We have to do a lot of yoga systems, spiritual activities, and then only we'll be able to reach. Then, Navadvars, the entry and exit doors of the material energy to the human body are through your eyes to, nostrils to, ears to, mouth, arms, genitals. Human body is a field or a place of kshetram of 9 gates. It's well defined in the Bhagavad Gita. These 9 gates are called a Navadvar. The material energy enter and exit from the human body are through the 9 gates. Now, these are attributes. This human body is entangled, it's trapped in all these things. This is what I want to tell you. Panchabhutas, we have it. Then you have the Gnanendriyas, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Karmendriyas, you have a tongue, legs, hands, this. Then object of senses. You have the see, sound, smell, speech, and speech, and one. So through this, you can touch them. You can sensation will come from this. Then you have the modes. One is Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamo Guna. Then another 3 things: mind, false ego, and intelligence. These 3 are the different one. Because of these 3, we are different in the world actually. And what we are in here may be different in America. What we are in different, Himalaya is different because the ego and intelligence matters. Then another thing is the soul and super soul. We know all these things, we are expert. Soul is the basic register, is the representative, and our records will be written. It will carry our information to the next birth. Super soul is the Lord is sitting with us, and he will observe what we are doing. And we can discuss with him, with the in and out, whether can decisions, we can discuss super soul. Then this is a block box, blood diagram I made it. thought processing unit. These are the inputs. Whenever the thought processing unit is there, mind is there, inputs are coming, number of inputs are coming, and mind will analyze it with 28 parameters. Then it analyzes whether this activity is a spiritualism or materialism. There are only two sciences we have. One is the material science and spiritual science. Material science deals with the experiments, whereas spiritual science the experience. Okay. Then after that, once analyze it, it will go to them again, TPU, then analyze it. From that, you get 6 decisions. That is, agree or reject, whether you want to sign it or don't sign it, whether you want the money or don't want, accept or reject, agree and reject. Then desire and hatred. I want this, what my desire, what is my hatred, that's the one thing. Another one here, the pleasure and pain. If you do any activity, what is my pleasure? What is my pain I'm getting? So these 6 activities are the arrows, one after analysis. And from this one, you take only one decision. I want to accept, I want to appoint one. Whether appoint or not, my body will analyze it. Then I will take a decision, then apply, then appointed, not appointed. The judgment, any one of it. So this is a thought processing unit. The basic idea just discussed. I am planning to work it in a mathematical model also. Then TPU acts very fast by coordination with all attributes. It's very fast. And all the attributes analyzed in a quick succession to separate them into 2 types, material and spiritual. The intelligence, mind and false ego play a critical role in taking 6 appropriate decisions. What are these? Again repeating. Agree, disagree, desire and hatred, pleasure and pain. These like arrows. And it will shoot them and opposite person will move in the direction. It may affect you, it may affect the opposite person. Here, mind plays the politics, but the body gets the punishments. Body does not do it, but mind make the gains and body will get the punishment. Now, yoga. India is the resource center of spirituality in the world. Yoga system was developed by our ancestors thousands of years back. Yoga, which is a union of body, mind, and soul. The difference of yoga systems are well elaborated in Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. It helps to take appropriate decisions under stressful conditions. Yoga helps for the self as well as the society. Yoga talks about a materialism, spiritualism. The practicing of yoga keeps the body fit and healthy. If the body is healthy, fit, then you can do other things. You can do education and everything. The health is not.
Sir, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. You have already taken your time.
Yeah.
Kindly.
Then decision of the mind depends upon the type of food taking, type of living, environment. Conclusion, humans are the most fortunate. Humans form platform can be used properly to go to higher levels. If you do not use it, you are fuller than the foolish. Mind is flickering, unsteady, and always busy working with inputs of sensory objects. No one is idle in this world. Everyone is working in this world. If not physically, they may be working mentally. Now, your yoga system is control the mind and body. One who controls the mind is called Goswami, as per Bhagavad Gita. One who is controlled by the senses is called a Gotsa, servant of senses. Sattvic would already explain. That would be the gateway to liberation, where the birth and death cycle does not take place. This is the prime goal of all living entities. Then, Vidya Vinay Sampanne, Brahmane, Gavyastini, Shinichaiva Swake Cha Pandita Samadashna. The humble sage, by virtue of a true knowledge, sees the equal vision: a learned man, a gentle Brahmin, a cow, elephant, and dog eater. He is called a real teacher and a real yogi. He sees all the persons uniform. And references have got this one. And dedication and devotion are 2 successful parameters to reach the Supreme God. And these are my activities: metaphysics, I work on karma, Vedic science, and super soul, Bhagavad Gita, all this published nearly 40 research, national international research papers. Thank you, sir, for giving the opportunity. Okay. And
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your really thought-provoking presentation. Now we have our next speaker, Florence Mins. He is a research scholar from our Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University. He will be making his presentation on Ishwar Pranidhan, a theistic means of yoga in Sāṅkhya. Is he there, Florence Mins?
Yes, I'm
Now
here.
go ahead. And you have total 8 to 10 minutes, right?
Okay, thank you very much. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Respected chairperson, respected all my teachers, organizers, participants, and very good evening to all of you. And first of all, I like to express my sincere thanks to the HOD and the department. I also acknowledge sincere gratitude to Dr. Shruti Mishra, my supervisor, who in fact encouraged me to do at least to take up this task. So I have nothing much to contribute. All things have been said already. However, it is out of my interest that I like to present a topic, and the topic name is Ishwara Pranidhana, a theistic means of yoga in Seshwara Sāṅkhya. So this is the topic that I have, and while talking about this, just I casually think when I talk about Seshwara Sāṅkhya, what are the literatures we have? Where do we have the sources? So thinking of this, I have a very short presentation. The sage Patanjali defines yoga as Yoga Citta Buddhi Nirodha. In this, he has explained all this in Ashtanga Yoga. And in this Ashtanga Yoga, we have two parts, that is Yama and Niyama. This explains the ethical portion of the Ashtanga Marga. And in this Niyama, we have the Saucha, Santosa, Tapa, Swadhyaya, Ishwara Pranidhana Niyama. In this, we have this called 5, and the last one is that Ishwara Pranidhana. Here we find a very distinctive presentation of understanding of God. Although we have some in Tapa, at the same time Swadhyaya. But this is the main point that I like to inquire. And while going through this Patanjali Yoga Darshana, it is a technique that aims controlling and purifying 3 lower vehicles of human, they say, the body, the mind, and the spiritual self. So it is said that the body, the mind, that which corresponds to the Tapa and Swadhyaya, which human body has some control. We have some control over it. But on the spiritual self, that is called the Ishwara Pranidhana, we do not have any control, because it goes beyond the physical body. Therefore, this has to be only related to the devotion of God or Ishwara Pranidhana. That is how I find that Ishwara Pranidhana is one of the places we find in yoga philosophy talking about God. And I found that in the Yoga Sutra, there are many places it is mentioned. That is Yoga Sutra number 123, 124, then 21, 232, and 244 and 45. In these places, I just passing through, I read through, and I read the commentary of Vyasa and Vachaspati. Although partially I have read of B.H.U. So from this, what I found is that they have explained step by step the understanding of Ishwara Pranidhana. But we find that first one, 123 of Yoga Sutra, that speaks about Ishwara Pranidhanatva. It is said that, or by feeling the omnipresence of God. Here, in fact, Vyasa and Vachaspati are explaining that how a person who is following the path of Ishwara Pranidhana, how speedily can reach to Samadhi. They think that it is something like an alternative path that is leading to Samadhi. At the same time, the person who follows this path, Ishwara Pranidhana, gains some type of benefit without working for it. And when we read in 124 Yoga Sutra, we find this Ishwara Pranidhana has been explained as the Purusha Ishwara, Purusha Vishesha Ishwara, where we find the distinction that this Purusha is a distinct Purusha, and they have tried to differentiate, telling that this Ishwara is untouched by the vehicles of afflictions, actions, or fruition. And also they try to differentiate that this Ishwara from the Sāṅkhya Purusha, that this Ishwara of Ishwara Pranidhana is totally unfettered, untouched by any of the including evolution, whereas the Purusha of Sāṅkhya system, we find that this could be a liberated Purusha or called as Mukta Purusha. So in this way, we find the overall development that I found here, that this Ishvara Pranidhana also talks about that Ishvara where we go giving our devotion and making him the motive of all actions. And also further we read in 232 Yoga Sutra that this Ishvara Pranidhanas, where it is said that Ishvara is the motive of that great teacher. Here we find that this great teacher, great guru, who is able to remove our sins, karma, and demerits. Therefore, we are able to go ahead in attaining samadhi. Thereafter, we have many more references, like we have again Sadhana Pada 45 and 44. There we read that through the path of Ishvara Pranidhana, it is a kind of samadhi that makes perfect our sadhana, through which we are able to reach our aim, the aim of called yoga. And this is how I find that. And later on, what I found is that Sāṅkhya and yoga as allied system, we find Sāṅkhya is more of atheist, whereas yoga is considered as the theist part. In all this, there are lots of argument, but what I found is that yoga has tried to give a theistic portion and given few arguments. So these were the way I found that yoga philosophy gives about the theistic understanding of God. And I have some observations. Observations are like, by the very fact, Seshwara Sāṅkhya, where Patanjali brings a new understanding of Sāṅkhya yoga system. By bringing new understanding of yoga and Sāṅkhya system, he in fact relates his view with the earlier views. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have taken your time, so kindly conclude. Huh?
Okay, so the last concluding point is that he integrates from Sāṅkhya called yoga, at the same time Jnana yoga, Bhakti yoga, and Karma yoga. At the same time, he makes this Sāṅkhya philosophy more acceptable. And lastly, what I found is that this called Seshwara Sāṅkhya, I say, or Ishvara Pranidhana, I say, means it is certainly a sure path that is taking to the end, that is the Samadhi. And I find as an implication, it reminds us that we all need to feel the role of God in all our efforts, and especially in doing yoga. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Florence, for your interesting presentation. Next, we have Salini Arora. She is also a research scholar from the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University. She will be speaking on spiritual practices in Shankaracharya's Advaita as a derivative of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Please.
Namaste to all. My topic is spiritual practices in Shankaracharya's Advaita as a derivative of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Yoga in its totality has multiple aspects like philosophy, physical, and meditational techniques. However, in modern days, yoga is mostly limited to exercises for physical well-being, whereas its original connotation of meditation for spiritual well-being is missing. Maharishi Vyas, in his commentary on Yoga Sutra, explains the meaning of yoga as yoga samadhi, that is, equanimity of mind and intellect, indicating that yoga basically is a meditational technique for self-realization. This aspect of yoga has been accepted extensively by all philosophical schools as a tool to attain Param Purusharth since ancient times, and Advaita is not an exception. Techniques used by different philosophical schools are apparently the same, while the philosophy behind them differs slightly due to the differences in the way they perceive the reality, which has resulted in unique, novel approaches and intention to perform these techniques. Understanding these differences is critical as intention plays the pivotal role in attaining the ultimate spiritual goal. It should not be taken as a criticism or basis to establish the superiority of any of the schools. In this paper, I'll make an attempt to gloss the philosophy of the two most ancient schools, namely the Advaita Vedanta and the Patanjali Yoga, analyze yoga from the Advaitic viewpoint, and then make a comparison of Patanjali Yoga with the Advaita Vedanta. Yoga also depicts the path to renunciation, can be divided into Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Raj Yoga. Another aspect of yoga is its approach to reality, which has two main ways: Vivekaj Marg, the path of discrimination or distinction, and Yoga Marg, the path of integration or union. Patanjali Yoga and Shankar Vedant have adopted the Vivekaj Marg. Vivek means discrimination of Atman or self from the Maya, or in other words, as put by Yoga philosophy, it is the isolation of Purush from Prakriti. Advaita Vedanta is one of the ancient philosophical schools of Indian philosophy. Yoga has its root from very ancient time in this tradition and has been practiced and taught by many Advaita scholars. The main aim or goal of Advaita Vedanta is self-realization, the realization of the self that it is none other than Brahman itself. Advaita has three-step process of realization, which Shraman, Manan and Nididhyasana. While Shraman means listening to the words of Guru or reading the Veds, Manan means to understand or reflect upon what has been learned by Shraman. And the third step, Nididhyasana, involves dwelling in that truth all the time by meditating upon it. Yoga belongs to this third process in Advaita Vedantic tradition. Here the term yoga depicts a meditational technique, the technique through which one leads to self-realization. Adi Shankaracharya, who has written many commentaries on several texts, has also commented upon the most celebrated work on yoga, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. He is the second scholar after V.H.U to write commentary on this work. Shankaracharya in his work Aprokshanubhuti has given 15 steps to self-realization. These 15 steps are the meditational technique through which one can attain the highest knowledge. The 15 steps stated by Shankaracharya in Aprokshanubhuti are Yam, Niyam, Tyag, Maunam, Desh, Kal, Asan, Moolabandh, Deh Samya, Driksthiti, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan and Samadhi. The terms are taken from the different section of yoga and 8 of them directly taken from the Patanjali Yoga. These steps are to be followed and practiced for a long period of time by those who want to attain the ultimate goal of life. Comparison with Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. Though Shankaracharya has taken terms from the Ashtanga Yoga mentioned in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he has explained them from the Advaitic point of view. Here, a brief comparison is done between these two, and the similarities and differences are stated for the better understanding of the realization between the two. Similarities. The first similarities is of the names or the terms used. Second is of the objective. Now coming to the differences, the first difference is of the number of steps. Second is the meaning of the similar terms. And the third difference is of the philosophical approach. The last difference is of the final result. The final result, that is Samadhi, in Patanjali Yoga is the absorption of all the vrittis, that is all the thoughts. In Shankaracharya Yoga, Samadhi is the establishment of only one thought, that is I am Brahman. It is the self-realization, the state of ultimate knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. As a conclusion, I will state that Yoga in Advaita Vedanta can be called as the merge of the Raj Yoga with Gyan Yoga. The steps of Raj Yoga have been explained by Shankaracharya in the light of knowledge of non-dualism. The explanation of the term of Patanjali Yoga is done differently by Shankaracharya, not to criticize or contradict the former, but to establish the Advaitic knowledge in each step of the practice. If seen from the larger perspective, these explanations can be helpful to understand the depth of some of the steps of Patanjali Yoga. As in the case of pranayam, the technique is not just to control the breath, but also to control the thoughts in the mind with each breath. Also, the additional steps can further explain the techniques and work as a connecting link to the next step of the 8 limbs. For example, the addition of Desh and Kal before Asana can act as a helping link for the yogi to understand the importance of place and time in meditation. The yogi can take the benefit of the suitable time and place by understanding about the phases of the day which have higher spiritual vibration and places suitable for meditation. Yoga is a technique which needs persistent practice, whether it is the one given by Patanjali or Shankaracharya. Therefore, the 15 steps stated above need to be practiced by the aspirant of the truth for a long period of time to establish himself in that knowledge. Once the yogi succeeds in this, he attains Samadhi, which is the highest knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Salini, for making your presentation. Next, we have Ashwathi S. He is also a research scholar from Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit, Kaladi, Kerala. She will be speaking on Yoga Darsane Moksha Sankalpa. So, Ashwathi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and make your presentation.
Okay.
You have total 8 minutes, right?
Okay. सर्वेषां नमस्कारः। मम विषयः योगदर्शने मोक्षसङ्कल्पः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्येन यो अभागरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनिना पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि। युज समाधौ इति धातोर्योगः समाधिः। योगदर्शनस्य प्रणेता पतञ्जल महर्षिः। साङ्ख्योक्त पञ्चविंशति तत्त्वैः सह ईश्वरस्य गणना अधिकतया कृतः इत्यतः सेश्वर साङ्ख्यम् इत्यपि कथ्यते। अतः तयोः समानतन्त्रत्वं कल्पितम्। साङ्ख्यदर्शने ये सिद्धान्ताः प्रतिपादिताः तेषां प्रयोगः भवति योगः। योगदर्शने ईश्वरः क्लेशकर्म विभागाचैरपरामृष्टः पुरुषविशेषः भवति। विविध साधना अभ्यासेन चित्तनियन्त्रणं कृत्वा कथं कैवल्यप्राप्तिः सिद्ध्यति इति योगदर्शनं विशदीक्रियते। यावन् मानवस्य मानसं विकाराकीर्णं भवति तावत् स आत्मज्ञानं न प्राप्नोति। अथ योगानुशासनम् इति सूत्रेण योगसूत्रम् आरभ्यते। योगश्चित्तवृत्तिनिरोधः इति सूत्रकारेण योगलक्षणम् उच्यते। वृत्तीनां निरोधः भवति योगः। चित्तवृत्तिनिरोधः मनसः एकाग्रतया भवेत्। चित्तस्य वृत्तेः क्लिष्टाक्लिष्टरूपेण पञ्चविधा भवति। वृत्तिनिरोधः अभ्यासवैराग्याभ्यां सम्पादनीयः। चित्तं सर्वदा परिणामभूतः। एकाग्रावस्थायां पुरुषः बाह्यविषयेषु विरक्तो भूत्वा आत्मस्वरूपे मनः स्थिररूपेण संस्थाप्य तिष्ठति चेत् कालान्तरे सकलवृत्तिनिरोधः जायते। चित्तस्य अन्तिमा अवस्था भवति समाधिः। सम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिः असम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिः चेत् समाधेः द्वैविध्यं कल्प्यते। सात्विकवृत्त्या सम्यक् प्रकर्षेण जातः साक्षात्कृतः समाधिः सम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिः इत्युच्यते। वितर्क विचार आनन्द अस्मिता च सम्प्रज्ञातसमाधेः धर्माः। विरामप्रत्यय अभ्यासपूर्वः संस्कारशेषो अन्यः इति असम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिलक्षणम्। यदा सर्वा अपि वृत्तेः प्रत्यस्ताः भवन्ति तदा चित्ते कश्चन संस्कारविशेषः जायते। स एव संस्कारशेषः असम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिः इति कथ्यते। सालम्बनाभ्यासः अस्य समाधेः सिद्ध्यैर् असमर्थः। अदो सकलविषयहीनं परवैराग्यं पदार्थहीनत्वं सकलविषयशून्यत्वमेव तस्य साधने उपायः। अयमेव निर्बीजसमाधिः। असम्प्रज्ञातसमाधिः उपायप्रत्ययः भावप्रत्ययश्चेति द्विविधं भवति। तत्र उपायप्रत्ययः योगिनां भवति। भावप्रत्ययः विदेहानां प्रकृतिलीनानां च जायते। तपः स्वाध्याय ईश्वर प्रणिधानानि क्रियायोगः इति उच्यते। द्वन्द्वसहिष्णुता तपः। परमपवित्र प्रणवादि मन्त्रजपः स्वाध्यायः। ईश्वराध्ययनं तस्मै स्वार्पणं च ईश्वर प्रणिधानानि। क्रियायोग अनुष्ठानेन क्लेशशैथिल्यं समाधिसाधनं च सम्भवति। क्लेशः कः इत्युक्ते अविद्या अस्मिता रागद्वेष अभिनिवेश इति पञ्चविधा क्लेशाः। अविद्यायाम् अस्मिता रागद्वेष अभिनिवेशाः उत्पद्यन्ते। अनित्येषु नित्यः, अशुचौ शुचिः, दुःखमये सुखानुभूतिः, अनात्मनि आत्मत्वं च अविद्यायाः स्वरूपः। एताः सर्वाः सूक्ष्मरूपेण चित्ते सन्ति। क्लेशस्य मूलकारणं कर्माशयः। रागद्वेषादि क्लेशनिदान्तः कर्मणा धर्माधर्मरूपः संस्कारः कर्माशयः। कर्माशय कारणात् जनन मरण पुनर्जन्मादयः सम्भवति। हेयहेतुनाशः पुरुषप्रकृतिसंयोगेन सम्भवति। पुरुषप्रकृतिसंयोगकारणः अविद्या। अविद्यानाशेन पुरुषः कैवल्यं सिद्ध्यति। तदुक्तं योगसूत्रे। स्वस्वामिशक्तेः स्वरूप उपलब्धिहेतुः संयोगः। तस्य हेतुरविद्या। तदभावाद् संयोगाभावो हानं तदृशोः कैवल्यम् इत्येवं योगोक्तं कैवल्यलक्षणम् उच्यते। विवेकख्यातिरविप्लवहानोपायः। अर्थात् संसारनाशस्य उपायः विवेकज्ञानः इति कैवल्यकारणत्वम्। मनसः पवित्रतार्थं सात्विकगुणप्राप्त्यर्थं च योगशास्त्रे 8 अङ्गानि प्रतिपादितानि। योगाङ्गानुष्ठानात् अशुद्धिक्षये ज्ञानदीप्तिरा विवेकख्यातेः इत्युक्तम्। योगाङ्गानुष्ठानेन अशुद्धिक्षयात् योगिनः विवेकख्यातिः सम्पाद्यते। अष्टाङ्गानि उच्यते। यमनियमासन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारण ध्यान समाधयोरष्टावङ्गानि। यमः आसनं प्राणायामः प्रत्याहारः धारण ध्यान समाधिः इति 8 अङ्गानि। अहिंसा सत्यमस्तेय ब्रह्मचर्य अपरिग्रहाः यमाः। शौचसन्तोष तपः स्वाध्याय ईश्वर प्रणिधानानि नियमाः। स्थिरसुखमासनम्। श्वासप्रश्वासयोर्गतिविच्छेदः प्राणायामः। स्वविषयसम्प्रयोगे स्वरूपानुकार इवेन्द्रियाणां प्रत्याहारः। देशबन्धश्चित्तस्य धारणा। तत्र प्रत्येकदानता ध्यानं। तदेवार्थमात्रा निर्भासं स्वरूपशून्यमिव समाधिः। यमादि प्रत्याहार पर्यन्त अंगानि बहिरंगानि धारण ध्यान समाधेः अंतरंगानि इत्युच्यते अष्टांगानि यः निष्ठया पालयति सः योगिः योग साधनस्य अन्तिमं सोपानं भवति समाधिः जीवात्म परमात्मनोः साम्यावस्था समाधिः अष्टांग अनुष्ठानस्य अनन्तरमपि चित्तस्य परिणामं सम्भवति परिणामानन्तरं चित्तः असंप्रज्ञात अवस्था प्राप्यते औषधिभ्यः मन्त्रेभ्यः तपोभ्यः प्राप्तं सिद्धं प्राप्ताः अपि पुनः विषयमग्नाः भवन्ति ध्यानेन समाधिं प्राप्त्यस्तु न तथा पुनः विषयमग्नाः भवेयुः एतादृशयोगिनां कर्मं अशुक्लम् अकृष्णम् इति कथ्यते इन्द्रियाणि विषयसंयुक्तानि इच्छां जनयन्ति तथा च इन्द्रियाणां विषयैः संयोगे इच्छायाः नाशाभावात् इन्द्रियाणि विषयेभ्यः निवर्तयितव्यानि भवन्ति स्थूल स्वरूप सूक्ष्म अन्वय अर्थ संयमात् योगिनः पञ्चमहाभूतानामुपरि विजयते इत्यादि योगिनः पञ्चमहाभूतानामुपरि विजयं लब्ध्वा अष्टविभूतयः अथवा अष्टसिद्धिं प्राप्नोति अष्टविभूतयस्तु अणिमा लघिमा महिमा प्राप्तिः प्रागाम्यं वशित्वम् ईशित्वम् उत्पत्तिः च अनुसमान सूक्ष्मरूपता अणिमा लघुरूपता लघिमा पर्वत इव विशालरूपता महिमा मनो अभिलषणीय वस्तुनः प्राप्तिसामर्थ्यं प्राप्तिः त्रिविघ्नता प्रागाम्यं पञ्चभूतानां स्वायत्तीकरण सामर्थ्यं वशित्वं भौतिक पदार्थानाम् उत्पत्ति विनाश कारण सामर्थ्यम् उत्पत्तिः च इत्येवं योगिनः आत्मसाक्षात्कारः लभते अष्टविभूति सम्प्राप्त्यनन्तरं सर्वाणि लौकिक अलौकिक ऐश्वर्याणि आत्माधीनानि भवन्ति एवं विवेकख्यातिः जायते अत्र विवेकस्तु प्रकृतिपुरुषयोः अन्यथाख्यातिः इत्यर्थः विवेकयोगिनः कृते सप्तप्राज्ञः लभ्यते हे संसारः क्लेशहीनता असंप्रज्ञात समाधिः विवेकख्यातिः अधिकारक्षेत्रं गुणानाम् आधारहीनता आत्ममुक्तिरिति सप्तप्राज्ञः विवेकी योगी तु अविद्या मुक्तो भवति सः रागादि क्लेशाभावे कर्माभावे च जन्माभावात् दुःखात् आत्यन्तिकमुक्तिः सिद्ध्यति विवेकज्ञानेन योगिनः सिद्धिं प्राप्नुवन्ति समाध्यवस्थायां योगिनाम् उत्पन्नं ज्ञानं धर्ममेकः इति कथ्यते धर्ममेकसमाधिः दोषशङ्कां दुःखं च निवारयति समाधिं प्राप्तमानं योगिनाम् एकस्मिन् क्षणेन सर्वं ज्ञानं जायते इदं तु योगदर्शनस्य परमं प्रयोजनम् इत्येवं कैवल्यं प्राप्यते योगसूत्रकारेण उक्तं पुरुषार्थशून्यानां गुणानां प्रतिप्रसवः कैवल्यस्वरूपप्रतिष्ठा वा चितिशक्तिरिति मानवाः मनसा सर्वदा विषयं निमग्नाः भवन्ति तादृशं मनः एकाग्रतया एकविषयीकृत्वा असंप्रज्ञातावस्था प्राप्नुवन्ति चेत् कैवल्यं सिद्ध्यति तत्त्वादि त्रिगुणानां परिणामः भवन्ति चित्तस्थैर्यानुसारं साधनाः विचार्यन्ते मनसः वृत्तीनां नियन्त्रणेन साधना अनुष्ठानेन दुःखेभ्यः मोचनं प्राप्ते इति योगमतं तदर्थं यमनियमादि अष्टाङ्गमार्गाः पतञ्जलिना विशदीक्रियते समाध्यवस्थायामपि चित्तस्य परिणामः सम्भवति यदा विषयः तथा चित्तमिति सम्प्रज्ञातसमाध्यवस्थायां चित्तम् एकविषयीभूता भवति असम्प्रज्ञातावस्थायां विषयागारपरिणामो न सम्भवति अतः सर्वदा विवेकख्यातिः इत्यवस्था जायते एवं मुक्तिः सिद्ध्यति योगाभ्यास सहायेन शारीरिक मानसिक स्वास्थ्यं लभ्यते योगाभ्यासः न केवलं मानसिक शारीरिक आरोग्याय अपि तु
have already taken your time, so kindly conclude.
अपि तु मोक्षसङ्कल्पाय च भवति मानसिक आरोग्याय सम्पादनेन कैवल्यपदमार्गः अपि लभ्यते लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु धन्यवादः
Okay, thank you, Ashwati, for making your nice presentation. Now the floor is open for discussion. If you have any question, you can ask to the speaker. Make sure that you can just make your question specific to the speaker, and we won't be able to take more than one question to each speaker. Yeah.
Is there anyone?
From online, those who are connected, if there's anyone, you can ask question.
Yeah, I have a question for Sastri ji, Mahesh Sastri. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. I have a question for Sastri ji. That he talks about the Vedic roots of Yoga Sutra, but now in the recent days, many people claim that actually Yoga Sutra was influenced by Buddhism, like Pradeep Gokhale and other scholars. So what is his take on that? Does he have any claiming the Vedic roots of Yoga Sutra? Thanks.
Sir, please unmute for online participants. I request you, please unmute, sir.
Yeah, it was muted. And whom you have asked this question?
This Sastri Kolasendra or somewhere from there,
I don't
that
know.
who has Chandan.
Everything. Yeah, come and repeat and make sure whom you are asking your question. First specify.
Yeah, I'm asking this Sastri Kulasendra ka.
So,
I think there is no Shastri. It is Doctor.
I think in this who has this Chandan on his forehead.
I'm not sure whom he is asking. That is Mahesh Sharma, I guess.
No, he's talking about
Mahesh Sharma, yes, Mahesh Sharma.
So Mahesh Sharma, are you there, Dr. Mahesh Sharma? He is not responding, sir. So once he will come back, you can just ask your question. Now we have another person who wants to ask question to some particular speaker.
sorry too, I guess this time we are unmuted. And here is the thing. My biggest concern is that entire discourse of Indian philosophy is plunging into the dungeon of liberated oriented philosophy. We must accept the philosophy in earthly dimension too. Otherwise, the philosophy will vanish in some sort of magical world. I mean, magical realism, if I would take the recourse to the Salman Rushdie and Marquez writing. Because we are very much confined to one dimension. Just this is some sort of binary perception when we are I mean, weeding out the other dimension, and that would reduce our entire discourse. Because I have seen that if someone is painter, he has made a painting, and what about his truth? What about his philosophy? For him, I mean, for Picasso, his painting is his philosophy, his painting is his truth, his finding is truth. For Marquis, his writing 100 Years of Solitude is his truth. And for a philosopher, his cosmic truth and his quest for eternal knowledge is truth. Then what would be the amalgamation of if we don't consider the earthly beauty and earthly presence and earthly aesthetics as well in our ancient Indian philosophical system? That's my question. Anybody can answer to that question.
From the speakers, is there anyone who would like to answer this question? Or we can.
I would like to say something if I'm allowed. Am I audible, sir? Rahul,
Yes,
sir?
you're audible. Yeah.
Yeah, Abhinav often asks such kind of radical and question, and I appreciate his courage. However, I also said this thing in my presentation that when we ask any question or when we propose any idea, it is historically conditioned. Hegel also proposed this thing. So when he is proposing this postmodern idea or postmodern question, he may try to think from his point of view, like rather than searching answer from any particular scholar who is thinking from classical point of view or another person who is thinking from modern or postmodern point of view. So from a postmodern point of view, if you ask any question, I do not think anyone would be able to answer such kind of question. However, only the person who is asking the question would be able to answer that. However, I appreciate his question that we should affirm the life affirming philosophy. So this is the thing I wanted to say. Thank you.
So since we are running short of time, now we would like to invite our chair of the session for his remarks. Okay, so since our felicitation of our another chair is due, I would like to request Dr. Rajiv, please.
Where are it not seen now? Not seen. On the day seen after it did not appear at all. No. Yeah. What happened? I think
Please felicitate our Professor Srivastava Madam.
Or give the numbers. I'll speak to them. Only give me.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. Now I would like to request Professor D.N. Tiwari, sir, for his valuable remarks. Thank you.
Then under the national Sanskrit University, they talk about same thing, no? National Sanskrit University. Vidyapit, both are same or different? Oh. Now is the national Sanskrit.
Respected head of the department,
Now,
Professor Anand Misra ji, Jyotsna ji, SP Pandey was there, and other colleagues, Professor Maurya, who was very nicely comparing this session. I think I will do better in Hindi. So, सुबह से बहस हो रही है, बहुत सारी बातें निकल के आई होंगी, जिसमें से कुछ हमने सुना है और कुछ नहीं सुना। लेकिन इस सत्र में इस विषय पर जितना विद्वानों ने अपने लेख पढ़े हैं, उससे पूरा सांख्य योग कवर हो जाता है और सबके जो पेपर्स थे कोई न कोई एक नई बात जरूर कहते हैं। यही नहीं, कुछ in comparison to Plato, Sāṅkhya philosophy, in comparison to Shankar. So they explained the macrocosm and microcosm. So it was brilliant paper. And I am thanking all the presenters for their brilliant papers. Sāṅkhya योग दर्शन की फिलॉसफी, सांख्य द फिलॉसफी ऑफ योग. इट रियल, इससे सुनने पर लोगों को ये लगता है क्या मतलब. सांख्य जो है फिलॉसफी, योग की फिलॉसफी है. योग का अपना स्वतंत्र फिलॉसफी नहीं है. और अगर इसको रिवर्स कर दीजिए, योग द फिलॉसफी ऑफ सांख्य, तो भी आपको यही प्रश्न उठेगा, व्हाट डज इट मीन? आर द फिलोसॉफिकल एस्पेक्ट इज सेपरेट फ्रॉम द प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट? आप देखें ऋग्वेद से ही सांख्य और योग, कपिल की चर्चा होती रही है, और आगे चल करके उपनिषद आदि में तरह तरह की उपनिषदें हैं. योग बिंदु उपनिषद है, नाद बिंदु उपनिषद है, और श्वेताश्वतर, कठोपनिषद, बहुत तरह के योगों का विकास हो चुका था, और इंडिपेंडेंट बहुत तरह के योगों का. यहाँ तक कि अद्वैत वेदांत का जो ध्यान योग है वो भी उपनिषदों में विकसित हो चुका था. अलग अलग ढंग के योग विकसित हो चुके थे. अब ये कहे कि इनकी कोई फिलॉसफी नहीं थी, उसकी सांख्य की ही फिलॉसफी हुई, तो आप उसके पक्ष में तर्क दे सकते हैं, पर यह मानना पड़ेगा कि जो आपके पास सांख्य का अभी जो शास्त्र पढ़ाया जाता है वो है सांख्यकारिका. वो पहली शताब्दी ईसा पूर्व या इसके आसपास की है, जबकि पतंजलि योग सूत्र दूसरी शताब्दी का है, 200 वर्ष पहले ईसा के है. तो डिफरेंस है, पहले योग सूत्र है, उसके बाद ये सांख्यकारिका है. अब इसमें एक बात होती है, पढ़ने से लगता है कि योग दर्शन ने सांख्य को एसिमिलेट किया और ब्लेंडेड तो मिश्रित किया, ऐसा लोग कह सकते हैं. और ठीक इसी ढंग से सांख्य के ईश्वर कृष्ण ने पतंजलि के योग को ब्लेंड किया, एसिमिलेट किया, ये एक बात आ सकती है. और पहले भी इस तरह की डिबेट होती रही है कि अब इस स्थिति में किसको महत्वपूर्ण माने. देयर इज ब्लेंडिंग ऑफ बोथ. और अगर बात मेटाफिजिक्स की, तो कोई अपने टेक्स्ट का मेटाफिजिक्स लक्ष्य बनाता है, उसे भी वहीं जाना है, और कोई साइकोलॉजी और जो प्रैक्टिकल मेडिटेशंस हैं उसको बना सकता है, उसका भी लक्ष्य वही है. क्योंकि अगर देखें तो दोनों की फिलॉसफी तो एक ही है, पजिल भी एक ही है. पजिल क्या है? ये जो प्रकृति का नेट है, इस प्रकृति के वेब से मुक्ति कैसे मिले, हम मुक्त कैसे हों, ये पजिल है. और यही फिलॉसफी है कि हम इस तरह से मुक्त हो सकते हैं. सांख्य ने कहा विवेक ख्याति से मुक्त हो सकते हैं, बाई नोइंग दी व्यक्ता व्यक्तज्ञ, और योग फिलॉसफी ने कहा स्वरूप प्राप्ति, चित्त वृत्तियों के निरोध से. तो योग को भी बहुत सारे लोग चित्त वृत्ति निरोध ही समझते हैं, बट दैट इज नॉट ट्रू. ठीक चित्त वृत्ति निरोध वाली जो दूसरी कारिका है, उसके बाद जो तीसरा सूत्र है वो है तदा द्रष्टु स्वरूप अवस्थानम. चित्त वृत्ति अगर निरोध हो जाए तो दृष्टा अपने स्वरूप में आ जाएगा. तो पजिल यही है कि हाउ टू गेट रीड ऑफ दी वेव ऑफ दी प्रकृति. प्रकृति माने आप, हम जो जीव हैं, सब इसको पुरुष कहते हैं. जब इसकी मुक्ति होती है तो उसके लिए पुमान शब्द आता है, माने जो शरीरी है उसकी ही मुक्ति होती है. इस तरह से देखा जाए तो सांख्य और योग का दोनों का पजिल एक ही है और फिलॉसफी भी एक तरह से चलती है। मेथड अलग अलग है, अप्रोचेज अलग अलग है, बट जो एरिया है वो एक ही है। तो ये तो मना इंसाफी हो जाएगी अगर कहें सांख्य दी फिलॉसफी ऑफ योग है, बट ऐसा नहीं है। लेकिन इसके एडवर्स को भी हम अस्वीकार नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि दोनों में इस तरह की ब्लेंडिंग है, you cannot separate the one and the other, and after separating you can say that it is a complete system। लेकिन दोनों कंप्लीट सिस्टम है, और दोनों जो प्राचीन काल से सांख्य और योग चले जा रहे थे, दोनों को उन लोगों ने कंपाइल किया। दे आर नॉट एडिटर, दे आर कंपाइलर्स। योग के सूत्रों को कंपाइल किया पतंजलि ने ईसा पूर्व 2री शताब्दी में, और सांख्य के सूत्रों को जो आए थे वो सांख्य की कारिकाओं को उन्होंने सिमुलेट किया ईश्वर कृष्ण ने। उसके बाद जो कमेंटेटर्स हुए, वाचस्पति, मिश्र, विज्ञान, B.H.U, बहुत सारे कमेंटेटर्स हैं। योग पर बहुत काम हुआ है, सांख्य पर भी बहुत काम हुआ है। जितना बहुत काम हुआ है उतना ही ये कंफ्यूजन बढ़ा है। सांख्य एक साइड है, दूसरे साइड, तब तो दोनों मिलके एक कंप्लीट सिस्टम होंगे। हाँ, ओके, ये मानने में कोई हर्जा नहीं है, क्योंकि एक जो सिस्टम है उसमें कुछ पक्ष को लेकर के आप अप्रोच कर सकते हैं, कुछ पक्ष को लेकर दूसरे अप्रोच कर सकते हैं, और दोनों पक्षों को लेकर के आप ये इवेल्युएट कर सकते हैं कि बोथ आर सिस्टर डिस्प्रिंट्स, हाँ, दे मेक द सिस्टम कंप्लीट। तो इस तरह से एक बात कही जा सकती है कि जो और सो बड़ी बातें हैं जिसको पतंजलि नहीं छूते लेकिन सांख्य में छुआ गया है, और जो बहुत सारे सांख्य की जो पुस्तकें हैं छोटी छोटी, उनमें हमारे पास 5 मिनट और समय है, उनमें बहुत सारी चीजें साफ नहीं है, अब बहुत कंफ्यूजन होता है। टेक्स्ट इतना सरल लगता है कि पढ़ने वाला भी समझता है कि हमसे ज्यादा तो सांख्य कोई जानता ही नहीं है। योग पढ़ने वाला भी, क्योंकि ये धर्म की पुस्तक की तरह से आ गई है, वो जन जन में समा जाती हैं, रियलिस्टिक है, व्यवहार्य है, तो सबको ये लगता है। इवन स्टूडेंट ऑफ B.A, इफ ही इज ए स्टूडेंट हैज बीन टॉट दी सांख्य फिलॉसफी या योग फिलॉसफी, वो भी सोचेगा कि सबसे ज्यादा समझ मुझे योग और सांख्य में ही आता है। क्यों ऐसा? इसलिए कि जो हमारे प्राचीन काल के ऋषि मुनि थे, उन लोगों के सामने अपनी प्रतिभा का केवल प्रदर्शन ही नहीं था, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ही नहीं था। किस तरह से समाज जो है, वो समाज का जो विकास है वो प्रगति करे, हाउ दिस, तो उसके लिए एक ने लिया लॉजिक और रीजनिंग से हम किस तरह प्रगति करके वेव से निकल सकते हैं, अपने माइंड को, लॉजिक को, रीजनिंग को, तो वो सांख्य सिस्टम हो गया। और कई लेवल पर हम मेडिटेशन करके इस तरह से हम उस नेट से बाहर निकल सकते हैं। दोनों अपने अपने तरीके हैं। बॉडी को हम, इंद्रियों को कंट्रोल करें, मैनेज करें, अपनी इच्छाओं को मैनेज करें एक स्तर पर, दूसरे स्तर पर अपने जो साइकोलॉजी है उसको हम मेडिटेट करें, उसको कंट्रोल करें, और तीसरे स्तर पर सेल्फ कंट्रोल की बात आती है। और इस तरह जब सब कंट्रोल हो गया तो सेल्फ सामने आएगा। एक और बात आती है कि योग तो फिलॉसफी नहीं कही जा सकती। क्यों? क्योंकि फिलॉसफी तो ओपन करती है प्रॉब्लम्स को, और यहाँ तो कहता है कि यहाँ आप जो है कंसंट्रेट करो एक जगह पर, ईश्वर पर कंसंट्रेट करो एक जगह पर। ये तो पूरी खुली हुई दुनिया से हमको बंद करती है। ओपननेस कहाँ है? ये फिलॉसफी हो ही नहीं सकती। बट आप देखेंगे कि कंसंट्रेशन बिगिंस फ्रॉम देयर, वहीं से कंसंट्रेशन शुरू होता है, पर वो लक्ष्य नहीं है। वो लक्ष्य है कि कंसंट्रेशन जो है कॉन्शसनेस पर कैसे हो, क्योंकि अवेयरनेस जब मैनेज होगा कंसंट्रेशन से होगा। अब पजिल में आप जब जाते हैं, बच्चे खेलते हैं, तो अगर कंसंट्रेशन का गड़बड़ हो जाता है तो फंस जाते हैं, दे कुड नॉट गेट आउट ऑफ द वेब। लेकिन अगर कंसंट्रेशन है तो दे इजीली गेट आउट ऑफ द नेट वेब। तो ये एक फिलॉसफी है। और दूसरा ये है कि बहुत मजे हुए ज्ञानी हैं, आप तुरंत जो है निकल जाएंगे। तो सांख्य ने एक मेथड लिया ज्ञानियों के लिए, और योग ने लिया सबके लिए कि भाई कंसंट्रेट करो और उसके वेब से तुम वो चक्रव्यूह से बाहर निकल सकते हो। ये दोनों का अपना अपना एक ढंग मैं समझता हूँ। तो उन लोगों ने ज्ञान को, क्रिया को मैनेज किया ताकि ये जो एसेंशियल एलिमेंट्स है जिसके लिए हम मैन को मैन के रूप में जानते हैं, ज्ञान एंड क्रिया, अगर इन दोनों को, ये स्वाभाविक लक्षण है मनुष्य के, निकाल दिया जाए तो मनुष्य का कोई अर्थ नहीं है, कोई अर्थ नहीं है। तो कैसे हमारे ज्ञान और हमारी क्रिया दोनों इस तरह मैनेज की जाए कि अपने मैच्योरिटी में आ जाए, और इस ज्ञान और क्रिया में जो बांधने वाले तत्व हैं, इच्छा, ये जो संसार है, प्रकृति है, तो इससे हमको मुक्ति मिल सके। एक बात है कि सांख्य जो फिलॉसफी है, योग जो फिलॉसफी है, ये फीमेल डोमिनेंस की फिलॉसफी है। तो इंडिया में जो है मेल डोमिनेंस की भी फिलॉसफी है और वोमेन डोमिनेंस की भी फिलॉसफी है। तो मैन डोमिनेंस में जैसे अद्वैत वेदांत में ब्रह्म, ये सब इस तरह का मैस्कुलिन डोमिनेंस, या और देखिए रामानुज वगैरह ये सब, तो वो मैन डोमिनेंस है, मैस्कुलिन डोमिनेंस है। पर शाक्त दर्शन और सांख्य दर्शन, यहाँ तो सब कुछ प्रकृति करती है। ये सारे जो अणु से लेकर के माइक्रो, क्या बोलते हैं उन्होंने कहा, माइक्रो एंड मैक्रो, ये सब कुछ तो प्रकृति का है, वही डायनेमिक है, वही सब कुछ करती है। इस तरह कर देती है कि थॉट भी इससे इवॉल्यूट होता है और मैटर भी। अब आप देखिए कितनी शक्तिशाली है। बहुत लोग सोचते हैं कि थॉट जो है मैटर नहीं है, इट्स स्पिरिचुअल, डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द मैटर, क्योंकि थॉट में जो है एक्सटेंशन नहीं होता, मैटर में एक्सटेंशन होता है। बट ये प्रकृति का नेट ऐसा है जिसमें थॉट भी प्रोडक्ट है मैटर का, प्रकृति का, आपका, और मैटर भी प्रोडक्ट है इसका, सारे जितने भी मैटर हैं। तो अब इसमें स्थिति है कि दोनों, अगर ये माना जाए कि द्वैतवादी है, इसमें देव पुरुष भी है, प्रकृति भी है, तो प्रकृति अपने को बांधती है, अपने को छोड़ती है। यही योग भी कहता है, तस्मात् उच्यते अध्वा न संसरति न मुच्यते कश्चित संसरति बद्धते मुच्यते च नाना आश्रया प्रकृति। अपने को बांधती है, अपने को मुक्त करती है, नाना आश्रयों को ग्रहण करके, ये प्रकृति ही। पुरुष न बधता है, न उसकी मुक्ति होती है, वो नित्य मुक्त है। कई प्रश्न सांख्य में आते हैं जिस पर बहुत कम जवाब देते हैं। आप लोग चूंकि रिसर्च स्कॉलर हैं तो वो मैं देता हूं। अब दोनों मानते हैं कि इनफाइनाइट हैं, दोनों ऑल परवेसिव हैं। ये फिलॉसफी विश्व में कहीं नहीं है कि टू इटर्नल रियलिटीज बोथ आर इनफाइनाइट एंड बोथ आर ऑल परवेसिव, डिस्पाइट दैट नन ऑफ देम डिलिमिट द अदर्स। कोई लिमिट नहीं करता। इसकी फिलॉसफी क्या है? इसकी फिलॉसफी सांख्य और योग की फिलॉसफी है। मतलब ये, अब सांख्य में ही देखिए, जब डिसोल्यूशन होता है तो सारे परमाणु अलग अलग हो जाते हैं, प्रकृति के जितने भी परमाणु हैं वो अलग अलग हो जाते हैं। फिर वो अलग हो करके निगेटिव पॉजिटिव मिल करके प्रकृति बनाते हैं, और उसको गुणों के रूप में हम उसको पाते हैं, सारी सृष्टि करती हुई। तो रजस और तमस काम करता है इन चीजों को उत्पत्ति के लिए, सृष्टि के मटेरियल प्रोडक्ट्स को उत्पन्न करने के लिए, और रजस और सत्व मिलके थॉट को प्रोड्यूस करता है, थॉट को प्रोड्यूस करता है। तो सारा कुछ तो प्रकृति करती है, तीनों गुणों के रूप में इसी तरह से समझा गया है। तो इस दृष्टि से अगर हम विचार करें तो इनफाइनाइट और ऑल परवेसिव दोनों कैसे होंगे? तो आप जानते हैं बाय डिफिनीशन कि परमाणु जो है जिसमें लंबाई चौड़ाई नहीं होती, अंतिम अविभाज्य कण होता है, ठीक है ना। तो उस रूप में वो कोई जगह नहीं घेरता है, स्पेस नहीं घेरता है, उसका संघात स्पेस घेरेगा बट वो खुद नहीं घेरेगा, ठीक है। और पुरुष तो कॉन्शसनेस है, कॉन्शसनेस में एक्सटेंशन नहीं होता, तो जो एक्सटेंशन नहीं है वो परवेसिव है पर जगह नहीं घेरता। और वो जो परमाणु है भौतिक, वो भी जगह नहीं घेरता। तो एक्सटेंशन लेस दोनों परवेसिव हो सकते हैं, अनंत परवेसिव चीजें परवेसिव हो सकते हैं। इनफाइनाइट सोल, इनफाइनाइट कॉन्शसनेस, माने सोल एंड मैटर, they can be pervasive if they won't have any extension. एक्सटेंशन तो बाद में आता है। अब प्रश्न एक बहुत बढ़िया किसी ने उठाया, मैं 1-2 मिनट अभी, बढ़िया प्रश्न ये था कि जब आपको जब विवेक ख्याति हो जाती है तो इपिस्टेमोलॉजी तो खत्म, चित्तवृत्ति निरोध हो गया, फिर विवेक ख्याति कैसे होगी? चित्तवृत्ति निरोध हो गया तो इपिस्टेमोलॉजी तो आप ट्रांसेंड कर गए, तो ज्ञान कैसे होगा? विवेक, डिस्टिंग्विश नॉलेज कैसे होगा कि मैं वो नहीं हूँ, मैं प्रकृति नहीं हूँ? ये बोध कैसे होगा? ये एक सवाल है। When all epistemological faculties are seized, how there is possibility to have the vivek khyati? This is a problem. अब देखिए, अब इसको सांख्य से भी समझ सकते हैं और योग से भी, कि जब 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 जो ये जो चेतना है, माने ह्यूमन कॉन्शसनेस सेल्फ, ये इतना सूक्ष्म कि चित्तवृत्ति निरोध हो गया, तो उस स्थिति में उसको यह विवेक रहता है कि मैं चित्तवृत्ति नहीं हूँ, एंड दिस इज विवेक ख्याति। यही विवेक ख्याति, मैं वो नहीं हूँ जो अपने को समझता था। आई एम नॉट ईगो माइंड एंड इनर स्कीम ऑफ कॉन्शसनेस, ओके ना। मैं अंतःकरण सामान्य नहीं हूँ, मैं ईगो नहीं हूँ, मैं बुद्धि नहीं हूँ। तो बुद्धि जो है, इंटेलिजेंस, ये इंटेलेक्शन जो पूरी दुनिया है वो नहीं है बुद्धि, यह विवेक हो जाता है। मात्र इसी से विवेक ख्याति इसी को कहते हैं। आई एम नॉट दिस, ये जो जाल प्रकृति का है वेब, आई एम नॉट दिस, आई एम डिस्टिंग्विश फ्रॉम दैट, डिफरेंट फ्रॉम दैट। तो इस तरह से अगर सांख्य को, तो वो दोनों इनफाइनाइट रह सकते हैं, परवेसिव हो सकते हैं। और एक दूसरा ढंग से भी है कि अगर प्रकृति को लिया जाए तो जितना भी एक्सटेंशन है ब्रह्मांड में वो सब तो प्रकृति है, तो इट कैन नॉट डिलिमिट इटसेल्फ। तो प्रकृति अपने को लिमिट नहीं कर गई तो परवेसिव है, और आत्मा लिमिट करता ही नहीं क्योंकि वो हमेशा एक्सटेंशन लेस है। तो जो लिमिटेशन की बात होती है वो एक एक्सटेंशन को लेके हम करते हैं, और ये न प्रकृति पर लागू होती है न पुरुष पर लागू। प्रकृति बाय नेचर cannot limit itself because it is extension, and the पुरुष cannot because it is extension less. दूसरा जो होता है साइकोलॉजिकल लिमिटेशन की बात होती है। तो साइकोलॉजिकल एक बड़ी बात यह है कि चेतना जब भी जैसे आप मुंह देखते हैं तो मिरर पर, तो आप यू कैन नॉट सी योर ओन आईज, आप अपनी आंख को नहीं देख सकते। जब भी अपनी आंख को देखेंगे तो पानी में देखेंगे, दर्पण में देखेंगे, बट वो तो आप छाया देख रहे हैं। तो जब ये बुद्धि मिरर की तरह होती है तो पुरुष की जो छाया है उसमें वो आती है, और ये जो सारे गुण हैं वो विकसित होते जाते हैं और व्याकृत इस तरह से होते जाते हैं। तो अब स्थिति ये है कि 1 मिनट में ये बात मैं खत्म करूंगा कि ये जो चित्त है वो चेतना नहीं समझना चाहिए, इट्स फैब्रिकेशन ऑफ द माइंड। और चित्त की जो वृत्तियां हैं वो इंटेलेक्शन है, वो भी फैब्रिकेशन ऑफ माइंड, मोड्स ऑफ माइंड, डिस्पोजिशंस ऑफ माइंड है। उसमें गुण है कि वो वस्तुओं का आकार ले लेती है विचार रूप में, अब विचार को जानती है। तो जब तक इसके सामने, चेतना के सामने, चाहे वो जीव की चेतना हो, कोई विषय न हो, तब तक वो स्वचेतन नहीं हो। तो ये थाट विषय बनते हैं, नहीं तो विषय अलग हो जाएगा और वस्तु अलग हो जाएगी। ये थाट विषय बनते हैं चेतना के। तो चेतना का ब्यूटी है ह्यूमन कॉन्शियसनेस का, ये स्वयं जानने वाला होता है और ये स्वयं विषय को भी क्रिएट करता है। ठीक है ना, माने मैटर जो है अपने को क्रिएट भी करता है बुद्धि के रूप में, और हार्ट को भी, माने ऑब्जेक्ट को भी क्रिएट करता है। इसी तरह से समझने पर सांख्य और योग दोनों की संगति बैठती है। यहाँ भी है चित्त वृत्ति निरोधा, तदादर स्वरूप में अवस्थान होता है, और विवेक ख्याति में भी वही होता है। अब कहिएगा कि उसमें ईश्वर की क्या जरूरत है, ये है वो है, तो ईश्वर को योग ने माना है, लेकिन विश्व में कोई भी दार्शनिक नहीं है जो जिस रूप में पतंजलि योग मानते हैं ईश्वर को उस रूप में माने, क्योंकि ईश्वर कर्ता नहीं है, ईश्वर सृष्टा नहीं है। ईश्वर आपका वो कर्मों का फल देने वाला नहीं है, वो आप ही की तरह है, थोड़ा विशिष्ट है। पुरुष विशेषो ईश्वर। जैसे आप अगर मान लीजिए कि आप बुद्धि से ऊपर उठ जाएं, बुद्धि पर कंट्रोल कर लें, नियंत्रण कर लें, तो जो आपकी स्थिति है उससे थोड़ा बेटर स्थिति ईश्वर की होगी या नहीं होगी। क्योंकि कुछ दर्शन में ईश्वर आपके मुक्ति होने की स्थिति से आप ब्रह्म हो जाएंगे, ईश्वर हो जाएंगे, पर आप कर्ता पालक संहारक नहीं होंगे। सर्वज्ञ हो सकते हैं पर कर्ता पालक संहारक नहीं हो सकते हैं। लेकिन इस संभावना को भी योग दर्शन ने, सांख्य दर्शन ने हटा दिया, कर्ता पालक संहारक नहीं है। तो उनकी रुचि इस संसार की व्याख्या करने में थी, इस वेव की, प्रकृति के वेव की व्याख्या करनी थी। यही पजिल है, इसी से गेट रीड करना है, इसी से मुक्ति करना है, इसी से निकलना है, यही विवेक ख्याति है। इन्हीं सब शब्दों से मैं मार्गदर्शक महोदय के सारे अपने सहकर्मी मित्रों, आचार्यों के प्रति आभार प्रकट करता हूं कि मुझे भी अध्यक्षता के लिए मौका दिया और अपने रिसर्च स्कॉलरों के प्रति।
Thank you so much, sir, for your profound remarks. I think now we have come to the conclusion of this session. Do we have break time now? Okay. So I think now we can proceed to the valedictory session. Right.
Will help you also.